Alright, I'm going to make another video here. Similar project. Actually, this is still the same table project that you've seen me build in some other videos. But I'm going to show you something about grinding. Everybody talks about welding and how to weld stuff better and this, that, and the other thing. But that doesn't mean anything if you can't sell what you're trying to make. So if you're getting grind marks that look like this, you see there's some pretty big gouges in there, and you can still kind of see the weld a little bit. If you're trying to improve that and get you something that looks a little more like that, it's a little bit more presentable, I'm going to show you how. Now, most of what I do, this is perfectly acceptable. There's no more weld there. It's mostly flat. It's good enough for most of what I do. But for this project, I'm trying to go a step further and make things all nice and pretty like this. You can actually run your finger across this, and you can barely tell that there's any sort of weld or anything done there. So I've got to grind these two on this side here, so I'll pick this weld here, and I'll show you how I go about getting better looking corners. So I'm going to come up later and clean this one up. So yeah, I'll set you guys up so you can see what I'm doing here. It's kind of a mess in here. Alright, so let me flip this thing around here. The tools that I'm going to be using today are a simple angle grinder. This one happens to run off a battery, but it can run off of electric or air or even hydraulics if you have one of them. It really doesn't matter. So I'm going to clamp this down just to keep it from wobbling, really. Because this piece is light enough, it will walk on me. So let me grab my ears here. And then, let's go over the equipment. This is a 36 grit flapper wheel. This one's PFX. Zirconia, if that matters. It's a Type 29. I really don't get too into the grinder discs and which one's the best or whatever. But even with a low coarse grit like this, you can still get good looking corners. So most people, they're just, if they're grinding, they're going to come in and just go in both directions real hard, call it a day. I do that a lot too, I'm not going to lie. But I did work at a job where we had to get perfect looking corners all the time. And then if I even had like one little gouge mark in it, the boss would come over and be like, no, you got to do it better. And I would try, and yeah. It was a high production facility too. We were running like a big, I think it was like 7-inch air grinder, and then we had these air DAs that we would finish everything with. So this is just a 4.5-inch grinder. So most people, when they want to use these, they want to run a pretty aggressive angle like this. Now you want to flatten it out, and then these work better when you pull it towards you. You might see me pushing it away, still under power, but I'm not pushing that hard on the head of this. So I'll go ahead and start grinding on this a little. Then I'm going to stop before I get completely done. Alright, so I got the weld down. I'll zoom you in here so you can see what it looks like. Alright, you can see there's still some pretty deep gouge marks in there. Even after you paint it, you're still going to notice all that. Those are some pretty deep scores. So what I do then is, even if you have a pretty low grit disc like this, you take it, start here, run it as flat as you can, and just slowly pull this back with very light pressure. And now you see most of them deep scores are gone. So I'm going to clean up this outside edge as well. Alright, so now that that's all cleaned up, as soon as I stop tripping here, I'll show you the next step. So at the job I worked at, where we were doing this all day, every day, we had them big turbo compressors and we ran everything off of air. But I don't have a huge air compressor here, so I'm just running this electric random orbital sander. This one's not super fancy, but it's better than some, but it's not like the absolute best. But it'll still get the job done. So this is a pretty low grit paper as well. If you want to get it looking perfect, you can switch to a higher grit. So we're going to turn this on, let it get fired up. And then just kind of go over that a little bit. Then you shut it off and inspect what you got here. So I'll zoom you in here so you can see there is a little bit of scoring right up in here. You can see that a little bit. Some people are going to be really worried about that. I'm not. I mean, that meets my standards. Although, you know, at the one place I worked at, they would yell at me if I left scores like that. So I would have to go back over that again, like real slow with the flapper wheel or the sander disc that's on the grinder, whatever you got, and then hit it again with the random orbital. And then you can see right here where I had a weld restart. Like I kind of blew a hole in the metal when I was welding it, and then kind of filled it back in with weld, and now I got a kind of I guess you would call that a weld defect. For this application, you know, on a coffee table, that is not going to affect the structural integrity of this. But if you were trying to paint this and make it look like that wasn't even there, we had a putty that we would put over stuff like that, and then when the painter would paint it, you wouldn't be able to tell that anything was wrong there. I don't have that putty on me because I don't get that super technical with the stuff that I build here in my place. But yeah, when you go to paint this, you'll see this little divot and the score mark there. But everything else is going to look pretty good. Like, you won't really be able to tell there's a weld there. It'll just look like a little scratch unless you get that putty. And then, like I said, when you paint it, it'll all be flat. Nobody will see a thing. The key between getting something that looks like that and something that looks like that is that last stroke. That last stroke I did, that was like real slow. That's what matters. So you can see this one's all kind of messed up. So I'll do that one real slow stroke over this, and it'll clean that right up. Sometimes when you get the weld in there, I may have to hit this again. So now when I run this stroke, it'll clean up. There we go. So that was 3 strokes to clean that one up. So that one is pretty bad, but now when you run your finger across that, instead of feeling like a sudden change in surface there, you don't hardly notice anything. And again, right here where I had the weld start, you can see a little bit of pitting. But if you wanted to clean that up, just put some putty on it. Call it a day. And after you paint it, you wouldn't notice anything on that. So hopefully this helps somebody.